doing another request similar to the 360 and the PS3. Favorite games on those. Turned into more of a ramble. I mentioned some of my favorite games, obviously, but I went into talking about a lot of games. But somebody was like, "Oh, you should do that with the GameCube, PS2, Xbox, and Dreamcast." I'll throw Dreamcast in there as well because it was the start of that era. I do one on those systems as well. So I grabbed some games I got over here. I'm going to show. I don't have a lot of the heavy hitters I used to have for all three of those systems. I have nothing for the Dreamcast anymore, but briefly I'm going to talk about some of the Dreamcast stuff I did like. Kind of get that out of the way, and then I'm going to be all over the place like I was in the last one. Dreamcast obviously came out in 1999. PS2 was after that in 2000. Then the Cube and Xbox came out in 2001. Dreamcast almost feels like the GameCube as well, like the last true, in my eyes, the feel of them and the look, video game systems. They just, especially the Dreamcast, it just screams like pure video games. Problem is, you could pirate on that system. It was a problem. Sony came in with the PS2, had a DVD player. Sega was fucked. There were still some cool games for that thing. I had gotten one in 2001, in 2002, after I got the GameCube, because the Cube had its problems as well. Mainly not getting enough third-party support, which Dreamcast didn't get either, and their exclusives were getting delayed. But I love stuff like Sword of the Berserk was a cool action game. For Dreamcast, you had Code Veronica, Resident Evil Code Veronica on there. And it came out on there before they came to anything else. Code Veronica X, I think, came out on the PS2. The Cube might have gotten it as well, or they got the regular version. I don't know. I don't know what the differences were with X. They might have added some cutscenes or something. I don't know. Shenmue 2 were on there. You had Resident Evil 2 and 3 also on there. I had a cool racing game that was called Vanishing Point that was pretty decent. Soul Calibur started on there, the fighting game. They tried stuff. They had like the Seaman game and stuff. They were still doing their thing. So there's Sonic Adventure 2. They had the NFL, the 2K series started there as well. Sports game, so a lot of people like the Dreamcast, and people call the Xbox, the original Xbox, the spiritual successor, mainly because Sega put a lot of their other shit out on there, like exclusives and stuff came to Xbox. And then, of course, they put stuff on the GameCube and the PS2 as well, when they went straight into developing games. And they had some horror games. I think they had a Ring game on there. You know, they had stuff, and there's plenty of stuff I'm missing, because like I said, I don't know enough about a lot of the Dreamcast stuff. I think they had what was that? Was Virtua Cop on there too? Yeah, they had their Sega stuff that they would have, and then they had other stuff. I can't remember a ton of it, but I just wanted to kind of briefly talk about some of the stuff that I do remember playing and having. Oh, they had the first Soul Reaver game was on there as well. It was on the Dreamcast and the PlayStation. I don't think it came out anywhere else. The second one was only on the PS2. They were probably on the PC as well. And they had other stuff also. You had Crazy Taxi, House of the Dead. I forgot about House of the Dead. You know, like I said, they had their stuff. Just not a ton. And it was gone. I think they discontinued it after like 2 years. But yeah, that's Dreamcast stuff. And then, like I said, the first one I got was the Cube. So you had exclusives like Wave Race is the only one I have. Only 4. That's what they did. Nintendo. Wave Race Blue Storm here. I think the first Wave Race was actually on the Game Boy. But then you had Wave Race on the Nintendo 64, and then this one. Have they made any after this? I don't think they have. Cool freaking jet ski game. You're doing tricks and stuff. Looks nice, still looks nice. You got your exclusives from the Cube. They launched with Luigi's Mansion, which people are like, what the hell? Very short game. It was a cool game, though. And yet stuff like this. They got the Rebels. The Rogue Squadron was on the N64, but then they got Rebel Strike. This is the third one. And Rogue Leader was the second one. That and Madden 02 were my first games for the GameCube. Rogue Leader, Rogue Squadron 2, and This one added on foot missions, Rebel Strike, as well. These were exclusives, though, as you can see, the only 4. Nintendo still has its exclusives. Even when they're not getting third-party support, they're getting exclusives. Resident Evil Remake and Zero were both exclusives. And now they've since come out on the newer consoles. Slightly up-res. But they were exclusive during that era. And they looked fantastic. When the Resident Evil Remake, you start seeing screenshots, you were like, oh my god. Because you saw right there the jump from PS1, Nintendo 64. Nintendo 64 had more power than the PS1. But they couldn't do like the cutscenes and the video cutscenes. Full motion video stuff that PlayStation doing stuff, but graphically some of the games would look better. But they looked fine, obviously, on the PlayStations. But you saw the jump just from, I think it was, well, these systems like, 128-bit, and then they kind of went to HD, and nobody gave a fuck. But you saw the jump. If you compare the original Resident Evil to the remake, it's insane. The jump is insane as, you know, I don't want to say the Resident Evil 2 to the original Resident Evil 2, because that's even more of a massive jump, but I'm trying to go like, even like if you look at Last of Us, and then they did the Last of Us remake on the PS5 from PS3, the jump is almost more incredible back then. But they had those, then they put out the older ones as well, which now sell for a good amount of money, not a shit ton, but probably maybe under $100. Zero and the remake are not expensive games, if you want to get them on there. Something's going on out there. And there was also stuff like Eternal Darkness, which was a great survival horror game. Geist was another one where you could possess stuff. Then you got Wind Waker, which people shit on at first. Wind Waker's a fantastic game. And the art style, the cell shading art style is fantastic. They also ended up getting Twilight Princess late. It kept getting delayed, so they could launch it with the Wii. The same way Breath of the Wild kept getting delayed, so they could launch it with the Switch. Because they already knew the GameCube wasn't selling well, so they're probably like, you know, we gotta sit here and kind of go a little backwards. Sorry, I need to lower that a little bit, I feel. And then you had, and then you get Mario Sunshine, F-Zero GX, Star Fox Assault was on there, Star Fox Adventures, which was Rare's last game for a home Nintendo console. They did make some stuff for the DS after they were sold to Microsoft. Kind of a shame. Rare was meant to be with Nintendo. They did great work, though. During the 360 era, they did some awesome shit. They are not what they used to be, though, in my opinion, as a developer. And it's mainly because they threw them on Kinect, and they did, like, Sea of Thieves. It's not the Rare that it used to be, right? But they had cool stuff. A ton of great exclusives, which is always Nintendo's strong point. Then Pikmin's first came out on the Cube. The Metroid Prime games were on the Cube. So they had an extremely strong first-party exclusive catalog, which they do. The problem is they didn't have a ton of third-party stuff. They got the Prince of Persias. They weren't getting GTAs. They didn't get Silent Hills. Like I said, they had the Resident Evils, but that was it. They didn't get any Fatal Frames. They got Blood Omen 2, surprisingly, but they did not get Defiance. But they got Scooby-Doo's, and you got a lot of the licensed stuff. It was the movie-based stuff. Harry Potters were coming out left and right. Lord of the Rings, Star Wars stuff was on all the consoles. But you got a lot of this stuff was coming out. And these were all solid. These Harry Potter games were solid little action-adventure games. They also had the Quidditch game that came out on everything. And like I said, Nintendo got the Harry Potters. They got the Lord of the Rings. Like I said, they got the Prince of Persia's. They got the Scooby-Doo type games and stuff. They got the Bonds as well. I think they got all the Bonds outside of the Quantum of Solace on the PS2 was just different. It was actually a third-person game. I need to get that one. That did not come out on the Xbox or the GameCube. It came out on 360 and PS3 as a first-person boot. Great exclusives on the Cube, though. You know, I loved F-Zero. I loved Wind Waker. Star Fox Adventures was a cool game. I liked it. I don't think I ever played Assault. Luigi's Mansion was cool. Mario Sunshine was one I tried to play a few times. I couldn't fully get into it. I need to try again at some point. Then you had Mario Parties, Mario Kart, Double Dash. Fire Emblem was there. That's a super expensive game now. Chibi Robo is another game that's super expensive. I'm pretty sure that was exclusive. I think that's what it was called. They had the Pokemon stuff. Was Coliseum on there? Coliseum, I think. Gale of Darkness. I don't know enough about the Pokemon stuff. I know Gale of Darkness was on there. I think Coliseum was on there too. I feel like I got it in Florida at a thrift store. I probably did a video on it here. Pickup video down there. But they didn't get a ton of third-party shit. You weren't going to see a lot of the more mature stuff. Like, there's no GTAs. The GTAs obviously came later to the Xbox. Then the PS2. They did get Smuggler's Run 2 Warzones. It's slightly different than Smuggler's Run 2 on the PS2, I believe. They had good stuff. They had all sport games and shit. And each console got different wrestling games, which was odd. PS2 had the SmackDown versus Raw, and at first it was like SmackDown, Here Comes the Pain. And then there was a couple, I think Shut Your Mouth, another one. And maybe Shut Your Mouth was also on the PS2, I don't know. There's a couple of them. Then it went to SmackDown vs. Raw. They had those. The Cube had Day of Reckoning 2, like WrestleMania X8 or something. And they might add a fourth one. And they all had like the All-Stars and stuff like that, I think. WWE All-Stars and like Legends of Wrestling. Xbox had WWE Raw 2. And the one might have been WWF before they changed. Because of the World Wildlife Foundation. And there was another one. They had another one. It might have been a WrestleMania as well. I don't know. But each console had different wrestling games, which was weird. A lot of them were good, though. I never played any of the Xbox ones. I played some of the Cube ones, and I did play a ton of Here Comes the Pain. And one of the SmackDowns vs. Raw. But they were, well, I think they were more well-received then than they are now, the wrestling games, since it's gone to the 2K series. But GameCube had a ton of stuff. Good exclusives, some that I'm still missing. And I might remember them as I go along. Like I said, I'll be all over the place. I'm trying to kind of keep it, you know, from console to console before I completely jump around. PS2, like I said, I don't have a lot of the great PS2 exclusives anymore, but I've played them. God of War 2, The Devil May Cry. I played the first one, played most of the third. I only played a little bit of the second. The first one was awesome. It was super short, but they had the Maximo games, Ghost of the Glory, and Army of Sin or some shit. PlayStation had tons of exclusives too. Final Fantasy X, Final Fantasy 12 at the time. Of course, they've now been re-released years later. They had the Final Fantasy Online as well, 11. Because you had a modem you could get for that one. I don't, like, Cube had something on the bottom, but I don't think they ever went through with it. The Cube had the GameCube mic, which I should have grabbed, which could be used in Yuke Saito's Odama, which was like a pinball type game. I think you might have been able to use it on other ones. They also had the drums for Donkey Kong Jungle Beat. Did they make a specific Donkey Kong, though, platformer for that? I don't think they did. There were some Kirby games, I believe, as well on the Cube. I don't know what. I don't know if there's any standalone Yoshi games for the Cube, though. But here's like the Scooby-Doo stuff. This is a fantastic game, Night of 100 Frights. I like this better than Mystery Mayhem and Unmasked. They also got some other ones, the PS2, like Spooky Swamp and a couple other ones that came out later on. They were also on like the DS and the Wii, I believe. And you got stuff like the Lord of the Rings. This and Return of the King are fantastic. Fellowship of the Ring was okay, but these were just hack and slash, good, solid games. You had movie clips in there and stuff. And then the Third Age was on all the systems, the RPG that they made. These are fantastic, though. There's that sound. Castlevania games were not on the Cube. Admittedly, Curse of Darkness is the only one that was on the PS2 and the Xbox. Lament of Innocence was only on the PS2. I love that game. That's a top game. Oh yeah, I'm talking about top games here. I'll talk about the Wii top games in a few. But Silent Hill 2, obviously. That goes for the Xbox PS2. I completed it on the... I played a lot of it on the Xbox, but I actually completed it on the PS2. But Lament of Innocence is a top 5 game probably for me on the PS2. At least top 10, even 5. Awesome game. Very similar to like the God of War stuff. Oh, that came out before God of War, so it's very similar to Devil May Cry type stuff. I think Lament of Innocence was 03. But awesome game. Just an awesome game. It's gotten a little pricier now, but not terribly. You probably get it for $30. That used to be like a $10, $15 game. That was a PS2. Vice City, I played on the PS2. That's one of my favorite. Vice City is still my favorite GTA, and that was... I love that game. PS2, it's a top 5. You had stuff like the Fatal Frames. The first Fatal Frame's awesome. I've not played this one full. The second one's great. This one was exclusive to the PS2, the Tormented. The first two did come out on the Xbox. Here's another favorite PS2 game of mine. Stuntman. Awesome fucking game. Trial and Error. It's super fun, though. It goofs on movies with the stupid titles. Like Live Twice for Tomorrow's the Bond type movie. Toothless and Whopping is like the Snatch type movie. There's a Scarab of Lost Souls, which is like a mummy indie type movie. A Whoopin' and a Hollerin' is like their Dukes of Hazzard type thing. Blood Oath, I think, is in this one. I don't know what that would be. Oh, look, this is still in the PS2, the fat PS2. Awesome Trial and Error. You're going to get pissed at a game like this. You're going to be restarting like a Tony Hawk. And Tony Hawks were on all the systems as well. Well, 3. They made 2X on the Xbox. 3, 4, and then Underground they went into, and Project 8, and not Teenage Wasteland, American Wasteland, I think it was called. That's Bubba O'Reilly, the Who song. Awesome stunts. Once you start to get it down, it's super fun and it flows. The music's cool. I love Stuntman. Just an incredible game. And then they got... I'm going to be throwing in my favorites in. I'll just start randomly talking about other stuff. These are games I don't have that are beyond expensive. $600, $700, $800, $900. Rule of Rose, Haunting Ground. You got a wealth of survival horror on the PS2. Clock Tower 3, Extermination, Kuon. Like I said, they had Resident Evil, the Outbreak games, Code Veronica X, Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 4 is a favorite of mine on the GameCube. That's where I first played it. It was a timed exclusive. It came out like a year later on the PS2. They might add some stuff. Resident Evil 4 is a favorite GameCube game. Wind Waker is as well. Eternal Darkness is also. Rogue Leader is as well. F-Zero GX was fantastic. I like Star Fox Adventures a ton. I didn't play the Metroid Prime games. I might have played some of the first. Star Wars Bounty Hunter I played on the GameCube. That was also on the PS2, not on the Xbox. Solid game. Wave Race was cool. Blue Storm, Simpsons Road Rage I played on there, which I like. Hit and Run I played and completed on there later on, which is a fantastic game. It's a GTA clone, but in the Simpsons universe. Awesome game. It's so good. People clamoring. They like want that remade desperately. Stuntman's a favorite PS2 game though. I also have State of Emergency here. They did make a second one, which is not as good as this one, and then they never went back to it. This is a Rockstar published game. I got this at the Video Game Trading Post in the Sunrise Mall time for $6.30, and I also got 24 of the game, which is an exclusive for PS2. Awesome game. It's a freaking riot simulator. It's nuts. You got people going nuts in there doing shit. Cool game. what else was another one? I got other stuff like the Kingdom Hearts games started on the PS2. I don't have much experience at all with the Kingdom Hearts games. They had everything. They had the RPGs, turn-based. They didn't have a lot of the more Western type RPG, like an Elder Scrolls and stuff like that. They didn't have Knights of the Old Republic because it probably wouldn't have been able to run on the PS2. They didn't have stuff like that, or stuff like Arx Fatalis. I mean, I'll get into the Xbox. I'll talk about that more there. Indigo Prophecy appeared on there, which is the first game by the people that did, I forget the company's name. They did Detroit Become Human, I think Beyond Two Souls, and PS3. I think they did something else too, I don't know what. That was on the Xbox as well. That did not come to the GameCube. Well, they had some point and click stuff, like a couple of Myst titles. I think Myst 3 was on there. I don't think they got the Siberias. Those were on the Xbox. Xbox got more. I'll talk about the Xbox. I'm getting ahead of myself. Which, whatever. Like I said, I'll be all over the place. The first God of War was incredible. The second one was incredible. And then they were still pumping out great games 2 or 3 years after the PS3 came out. Which kind of hurt the PS3, because you got Persona 4 on there, and God of War both came out after the PS3 was out. They were obviously in development before then, but Odin Sphere was another one that came out after the PS3 came out, which is an awesome game, platformer. Hack and slash type 2D platformer. It looked incredible, but it was just side scroller, not 2D side scroller. And Spy Hunter games, which the first one came out on the Cube as well as the Xbox. I don't think the second one came out on the Cube. And then they made that one Nowhere to Run that had The Rock. I think it was supposed to be a movie, and it never became a movie. And the game kind of just disappeared. It came out, but like no one remembers it. I barely do. I never played much of it. I think I saw videos of it. I don't think I played any of it, actually. Every system had Gauntlet Dark Legacy. Seven Sorrows Gauntlet, I think, was only on the PS2. Maybe, actually, might have been on the Xbox. But I think it might have only been on the PS2. I don't know. They had a ton of stuff. And the PS2 had one of the best game libraries you're going to find. Just because outside of, and first-person shooters, they had the Bonds. The Killzone first came out on the PS2. They had, like, Project Snowblind. But they didn't. Killzone was, like, promoted as a Halo. It was not. But they did get the Bonds and stuff. They got Medal of Honors as well, which Medal of Honors was also on the GameCube and the Xbox. But they had enough shooters, but they didn't have a Halo. Alright. I like some of the Bond shooters, first person shooters very much, but Halo's still in the league of its own in my opinion. And Final Fantasy X is another favorite of mine, even though I never completed it on the PS2. I played a ton of it on the PS2, and I later on completed it. But it was the remaster or whatever, right? I beat the remastered one. Maybe I didn't. I don't even know. Maybe I beat it on the PS2 later down the line. When I first was playing it, I borrowed the PS2 from somebody. And they had gotten Final Fantasy X, but they weren't going away for a couple of days or something. I don't know what they were doing. I'm like, oh, you can borrow it. And I've had it for like 3 days, and I played a ton of it. And loved it, and I gave it back. I was playing GTA 3 on there as well. Which changed the game, GTA 3, when that came out on the PS2. You're playing that, you're like, oh my god. I remember first seeing Silent Hill 2 in my friend's basement. His brother had it, and his brother was, at the time, was maybe like 15. And he was like, I can't keep playing this, it's too fucked up. And I was just like, this game looks sick. Other exclusives. I'm going to forget so many exclusives for the PS2 because there's so... Like I said, even 24 is exclusive. Kingdom Hearts and Kingdom Hearts 2 were. They had pretty much every genre outside of like the Western RPG lockdown. Survival horror, turn-based RPGs, action games, the Ratchet and Clanks, the Jak and Daxters, they had those. The Sly Coopers, they had those. Those were all exclusive, and still are. Not that they make Jak games anymore, but they do still make Ratchet and Clanks. And there hasn't been a Sly Cooper game since the PS3 and the Vita, I believe. But those that Sucker Punch went on to do, like Ghost of Tsushima, I think, right, was theirs. Infamous, I believe they did as well on PS3. We had all those. They had Gran Turismo, Metal Gear Solid 2, and Metal Gear Solid 3 was exclusive. 2 was timed exclusive. It came out on the Xbox as Metal Gear Solid 2 Substance, which had some extra stuff in it, I think. Like I said, Lament of Innocence was. Soul Reaver 2 was only on the PS2. Listen, I'm going to forget a ton of stuff. I talked about some of the favorites. And here I'm going to go on the Xbox, and I'm going to bounce around. This will probably be at least a 45-minute video. Xbox, I've talked about it. My personal favorite from that era. I love all of them. Xbox is my favorite, though, of that generation of games. Boom. Halo, launch title, Combat Evolved. Fantastic game by Bungie. Bungie has not made a Halo since Reach, I believe was the last one they did. This one, incredible. You're Master Chief. You're fighting the Covenant. Big open areas, especially when you're in the outside. When you go into the structures and stuff, it's a little tighter. But you get these big outside areas when you're on the outside of the ring. It's just an awesome shooter. The AI was solid. It's Halo. It's awesome. It's still my favorite Halo. I might have to use this case for the Xbox tapping. It's Halo. It's freaking awesome. Then you get stuff like this, which came out on PC as well. But you got Knights of the Old Republic. That's what the Xbox was pretty much a PC. Not, eventually you would get better PCs while the Xbox was still out, but it operated as a PC. It had a hard drive and it had more power than the other systems. The PS2, GameCube, Dreamcast. You'd get stuff like this, and the Sith Lords. This game is one of my favorite on the Xbox. It's an awesome fucking game. One of the best Star Wars games still to this day, because it took place, it was like 4,000 years before, does it say here somewhere? But yeah, 4,000. So you had completely different characters, but they weren't like, here's R2-D2, oh, here's Chewbacca. I mean, they're in their robots, and I don't know what Chewie's race is called. The Wookiees, duh. They're in there. You have all these people that look like Yoda. I don't know what he is. But they had so much stuff, Mandalorian stuff's brought up. There's so much shit going on. You go into different planets. You're bringing in you get your group. You have a ship that you go around flying to other planets. Just a sick game. It was made by BioWare back when they started to really put out the good stuff. I never played Jade Empire, which is another one that came out on the PC and the Xbox. I need to pick that up at some point. This was just an awesome freaking game, man. The combat was cool. You're getting different powers, different things. It's just an awesome freaking game, man. Sith Lords is awesome too. But they got this kind of stuff. Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind, also on the PC. If it was out on the PC, it most likely made its way to the Xbox. And vice versa, if it came out first on the Xbox. But you got Morrowind, which is different, but that's more action-adventure RPG. They had a lot of Star Wars stuff on the Xbox. They had these two. They had Republic Commando, which I believe was exclusive to the Xbox at the time. It's out now, since made its way elsewhere. That was a first-person shooter that took place during maybe episode 2. They got Jedi Starfighter like the other. I don't know if the GameCube actually got Jedi Starfighter. They had like the Obi-Wan adventures from the original, the prequel trilogy. That I think was an exclusive Xbox. It's just Star Wars Obi-Wan, I think it was called. So each system was getting different Star Wars games, I feel too, except maybe the PS2, because you got the Rogue Squadron games on the Cube. They got Bounty Hunter. They got the Clone Wars, which I think was on all of them. I don't know if they got any other ones. They might have gotten Starfighter. I don't know. I might be forgetting some too. I don't know if the PS2 got any exclusive Star Wars games. They had Bounty Hunter, the Battlefront games were also on the Xbox. Bounty Hunter was also on the Cube. They got Starfighter, which is at least on the Xbox. It's probably on the Cube as well. They didn't have the Knights of the Old Republic games. Did they have an exclusive? I don't know. Somebody let me know if they had an exclusive. I don't know if they did. This one makes good tactics too. This is one of my these are two of my favorite Xbox games ever. These are top 5 realistically. Then I was talking about, they got the Sega shit only on Xbox. Boom, Panzer Dragoon Order. I said in a prior video they got this. They got that might have been a video on my other channel when I did my Xbox collection. They got this. They got Gun Valkyrie. Shenmue 2 came out again on the Xbox. They might have added some stuff from the Dreamcast version. They got Outrun, one of the Outruns. I said Midtown Madness as well, but I'm not sure if that was a Sega game or not. They got House of the Dead 3, which I'm pretty sure came out nowhere else. They also got Dino Crisis 3, which is not a Sega game, which didn't come out anywhere else. I think that was the last Dino Crisis game as well. I'll get to that in a minute. Let me think of these more Sega games. I'm not sure if they got the Sonic DX games. I got this Shenmue 2, Gun Valkyrie, House of Dead 3, Crazy Taxi High Roller, I believe was only on the Xbox. Was there another one? I could have sworn there was another one. Maybe I'll think of it. The Xbox didn't have a heavy, it seems nice actually. They didn't have a heavy survival horror collection. They had Dino Crisis 3. They had no Resident Evils. They did get Silent Hill 2 and 4. 3 was exclusive. Silent Hill 3 is another favorite on the PS2 for me. They'd get 2 and 4. And 4 is another favorite Xbox game of mine. Love Silent Hill 4. It's underrated even though it's got problems technically with the gameplay, but it's such a great story and it's still creepy as hell. I love it. They got the 2 Fatal Frame and Fatal Frame 2. They got Call of Cthulhu Dark Corners of the Earth, which I never played. It's a little pricey. I could probably get it for $40. I have it for the PC because I got it at a flea market upstate New York when we went to House Cavern. There's a cool flea market like inside this little valley. It was nice. But I was looking at old PCs with disk drives on eBay the other night, and I might pick one up because I have a bunch of PC games that I can't play because I don't have a disk drive on the laptop, and they're fairly cheap. I might do that. That might be my next video game endeavor. Oh, this was awesome. Crimson Skies was another sick exclusive for the Xbox. Every system had really good exclusives. I think they got the Dead or Alive's were exclusive. Ninja Gaiden was exclusive by Tecmo at the time, and then it came out on the PS3. That was another game that looked amazing at the time. What were some of my other favorites? Xbox. Like, I played a lot of the stuff on the Xbox, like Blood Omen 2, Legacy Kane of Defiance. Hey, ESPN NFL 2K5, I played on the Xbox, and that is still my favorite football game. They had their own games as well. They have I think it was NBA Inside Drive, NFL Fever, NHL had one too, I believe. I can't remember what it was called. What was did they have a baseball game? Maybe they didn't have their own. And then they didn't make them. They made a couple of each, I think, and then they stopped. I remember, I think Fever and I think that was the football game. Inside Drive or something like that was the basketball game. I don't know if they had a baseball game. They had a hockey game, but I can't remember what it was called. I'm pretty sure those were Xbox exclusives. There's boxing games as well. There's tons of sport games on these consoles. And you got stuff like the NFL Streets, which I have PS2. These arcade games, they had the NBA Streets as well. FIFA ended up making one. And then Midway was still doing, this is EA, but Midway was doing like the NHL Hits, NFL Blitz, Slugfest. It was Midway as well. So you did have a lot of arcade action as well for the sport games. But other Xbox exclusive. I'm looking over at my Xbox. Bloodwake was an Xbox exclusive. Dead to Rights was at first, and that actually made it to the Cube too, which is surprising. Like games like Max Payne performed better than the PS2 version, because that was on the Xbox at first, and I think it came later to the PS2. That was my first Xbox game. My first Xbox game was that. My first PS2 game was like the first PS2 that I owned was, I think, because like I said, I played those other games, so that was a borrowed system. Vice City, I believe, was the first PS2 game I owned. And Rogue Squadron and Madden 02, I got at the same time. We're both the first two there. Then there was stuff like Pirates Legend of Black Cat, which I had for the Xbox, which was a pretty decent game. What was some other? Why am I forgetting Xbox exclusives? Well, Dino Crisis 3 was an exclusive. But I'm trying to think of like Fable. The first Fable comes out. Funny story. I've talked about this before. I never played the first Fable. I played a little bit of the anniversary one. I got another game which I enjoyed, but it came out. I might have came out the same day. It was called Sudeki. It was kind of like a gauntlet type game, and it was cool. It did not review as well and was not as well received by fans or players and reviewers as Fable, but I got Sudeki and I enjoyed it. I want to get it again for the Xbox. I have it on the PC here on Steam, but I kind of want to get it on the Xbox as well. But they were getting stuff like Arx Fatalis. How could I forget Manhunt, which was on the PS2 and the Xbox? The Cube was not getting that. It was essentially a snuff film. It was a stealth game where you were actually executing the people. This game was fucked. This game, somebody was trying to say, I think it was in the UK, someone was like, oh, they were trying to say they murdered their friend or something because of Manhunt. And the judge was like, no. He was like, no, you didn't. You're just nuts. But you were plastic bagging dudes, and it was brutal. They wouldn't be able to make this game now with the graphics now. Because if you go back and watch compilations of the executions of Manhunt on YouTube, they are still brutal. Because if you held the button long enough, it would get red, and that's when you get the high level one. Like there's one with a bat where you choke the guy out, and he's on the ground like this, and then you just bat him, brains hit the wall. You're plastic bagging, dude. Using shards of glass. You do get guns in the game, and the game in general, there's a level because you're going through. I'm going to talk about Manhunt briefly here. The director Starkweather, who's voiced by Brian Cox, and he hams it up so great in this game. Like he wasn't like, oh, it's a video game, I'm going to dig around. No, he took it to the hilt in this game. You're stacking up the corpses like it was Judgment Day. Slaughter the pig. Like he would just say the same shit. Cash, kill this dumb fuck, you know. But he was great, and you're supposed to be executed, and he saves you, and then you got to go through Carcer City, which is in the GTA universe. You have to go through Carcer City. He owns the police. This guy, he's paying off the gangs, and you're avoiding gang members. And there's a level where you're in like an abandoned zoo, and they have your family member captured, and if you get spotted by them, they will just go up and blow their heads off. This game was definitely Rockstar's most fucked up game. Like this game made the GTAs look tame with the violence you could do in GTA. That was almost more comical. This was more like, what the fuck? But it was actually a really good stealth game. And if you had like I think there was a headset you could have the mic, and if you made noise into the mic, the enemies would hear you. This is stuff games have done this. I think Alien Isolation and that Quiet Place game, they were doing this shit back in the PS2 era on Manhunt. The enemies would hear you, and there was one time, because the enemies would say the goofiest shit, and I was coming up behind an enemy, and he said something so ridiculous, I started laughing, and then he saw me, because I was right behind him, and then I like laughed and let go of the controller, and he knew I was behind him. It's actually a really good stealth game, but it is extremely brutal. I think you cut out Starkweather's guts at the end of the chainsaw. There was other weapons you got too. Like I said, there was the bat. There's plastic bags, the first one you get. And like I said, there's 3 levels of execution. Just, man, it's a really good stealth game. The violence is ridiculous, but it's a great game. Ars Fatalis was another one that was on PC, where you're like underground because something happened up top and everything's underground. You can't inhabit top side of Earth. They had a ton of stuff though. Manhunt's one of my favorite games during that era too. It's just a legitimately good stealth game. And extremely violent. What else? They had top spin games, tennis games that were exclusive, I'm pretty sure. I don't think they was made by Sega though. I think that Microsoft made those. Virtua Tennis, I forgot, on the Dreamcast. My favorite tennis game. My friends and I used to play that shit constantly. Like, my friend used to throw parties at his house when his family went away. And this would be early, this was like probably 2000 actually, 2000, 2001. We'd go over there. And people would be playing beer pong, whatever. A few of us, me, my one friend who owned the house, his family owned the house, his brother, a couple of people, let's go up and play Virtua Tennis. We'd be shit-faced just playing Virtua Tennis for like 5 hours. That's another one for the Dreamcast. They still do make Virtua Tennis games, I believe. I could be wrong, though. They might be 2K now, actually. Because Sega is 2K. Wait. Take-Two. Does Sega own Take-Two? I don't know. I don't know. A lot of great games on all the systems. I'm forgetting a ton, as I always will. Because there's so fucking many. Smuggler's Run was on the Cube. And actually, the first Smuggler's Run was also on the PlayStation 2. SXX games were on all the systems. Awesome games. I think the first one was exclusive to the PS2 because I think it was a launch title. And then there was SSX Tricky 3 on tour. I think on tour introduced skiing. EA had a good run then. That's when EA was still really good. Before they got into microaggressions. Microtransactions. And stuff like that. And they don't put out as much good stuff as they used to, regardless. They had a pretty good run on the 360 as well on the Xbox, but then it kind of started to go downhill. They still do some good stuff, but not like they used to. Because they did the NBA Street, NFL Street stuff. They published the Bond games. The Lord of the Rings games are EA as well. So are the Potters. Here's another great game that gets overlooked. Metal Arms. This is on all the systems. Awesome platformer. You play as a glitch here. And you're just blowing stuff up. It's a little similar weaponry to like a Ratchet and Clank. You get vehicle stuff. You can hijack other enemies and stuff like that. Hack into them. Super fun game. This is a super fun game. I want to say I beat this on the Xbox. Gladius is on all 3 of the consoles. Amazing strategy RPG. They're the Phantom Brave games as well. The PS2. Those are exclusive. Skies of Arcadia was actually the second one. That was another one that was on the Dreamcast. I never played it. Any of them. I know Vice and Ica appear in Valkyria Chronicles. Those characters from Skies of Arcadia. There was another one. I don't know if it was a remake or a sequel, but that was exclusive to the Cube, I believe. And that's another one. Legends or something it's called. That's probably another $100 game. No, the Uncharted did not start on the PS2. I'm looking at the Uncharted. No, that did not start on the PS2. You had a lot of great franchises started on the PS2, like Devil May Cry, Ratchet and Clank, Jak, even though Jak's done now. It has been done. And you got stuff like Spyro's, which was originally made by Insomniac. And the Crash Bandicoots were originally made by Naughty Dog, but now I don't know who owns them. Ubisoft, maybe Activision, I don't know. I think it's Activision that owns at least Crash. No, I was about to say Resistance, but those were not either. There was just tons. The PS2 had it all, except, like I said, those Western RPGs they didn't have a ton of. But they had everything else. Tons of them. I'm not super into the racing games. You got the Burnouts originate during that console cycle. The first two were on the Cube, but 3 was not, and Revenge was not. When was the last time there was a Burnout game? There was, and I feel like all the systems had exclusive racing games. Maybe the Xbox had F-Zero. There was also an Xbox One, an F-Zero wannabe that I had called Quantum Redshift. It was alright, but it was not nearly as good. That might have been exclusive to the Xbox, actually. Was that another Sega game? I'm not sure. There's just a lot of... you also had... you can connect your GBA to the Cube. You see right here. You like transfer some stuff. I don't know what. I think there's some Pokemon games as well. There's tons of stuff. I'm missing tons of games. I'm going to try to think of some more here. I did talk about some favorites as well. Oh, Sega GT and Jet Set Radio Future were also exclusive to the Xbox, as were the Rally Sport Challenge games. But those were not made by Sega, I don't believe. They got a lot of point-and-click stuff. They had a couple of Siberia games. They had Still Life. Curse the Eye of Isis, which was kind of like that. They had 2 missed games, 3 and 4. I don't think 4 was on the PS2. You had Indiana Jones and the Emperor's Tomb, which was not on the Cube. That was on the Xbox PS2. Xbox got the Buffy the Vampire Slayer game, which was super fucking cool. I need to pick that up again. And then all 3 consoles got the second, I think it's called Chaos Blade, second Buffy game. The first one was exclusive. It was made by the same people who made the indie game. So it's a similar combat style. Emperor's Tomb was a cool game, though. There were some Tomb Raider games. I didn't play them. I'm not well versed at all with those old Tomb Raider games. The newer ones I am. Like Tomb Raider, Rise of the Tomb Raider, and Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Those ones I played completion. I think there was like Angel of Darkness, maybe Tomb Raider Legend, which was also on the 360. I think there was another one. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know them. I think they're making a collection of those, that weird era of Tomb Raider, people call it. That like them. There was a Far Cry game on there. It was original on PC, and it came. I think they called it like Far Cry Instincts or some shit. Brute Force was an exclusive, which was being touted as another Halo, but it was a third-person game. I don't know why they did that, Xbox. I mean, I have to say Gladius was one of my favorite Xbox games because I played it. Majority of it on the Xbox. I did play it elsewhere. I think I played some of it on the Cube as well. The Prince of Persia games were awesome. I mentioned those briefly. Saying they were all because the first one's incredible Sands of Time. It's not the first one during that era. Prince of Persia's been around since the 80s. That one was awesome. Warrior Within I played was solid, and then I have not played Two Thrones. Here's one of the Bond games. This is the third person, Everything or Nothing, which is awesome. There's a couple third person ones from Russia with Love. First person ones, Rogue Agent, spin-off. Nightfire, Agent Under Fire. I think Quantum of Solace was on the PS2, but not on the Cube or the Xbox. This game's awesome. The Bond games were solid during that. It's probably the best era of Bond games. I think it's better than the PS3 360 era of Bond games and Wii, if you want to throw that in there. Bond, they haven't made it. When was the last time you had a Bond game? Fuck. But that was the era for that stuff. The Potter stuff, the Lord of the Rings. Other movies got games too, like The Mummies had some games. Like Reign of Fire had a game. So they were still pumping out movie-based stuff then during that era too. But there wasn't a strong survival horror selection. The Cube had a better selection than the Xbox, just mainly because they had all the Resident Evil stuff. And they got 4, the remake, 0, and then they re-released the other ones. 2, 3, and Code Veronica. They had Eternal Darkness. They had Geist. But the thing is, it's just because they had those Resident Evils, it kind of pushed them a little forward. They might have had... I'm trying to think if there's like some random one on there. I don't know. PS2 also had Clock Tower 3. Like I said, Ruler Rose Haunting Ground, which I've never played. Kuwan. Did I say these already? Which a lot of these games are overly expensive now. There's a difference between like a game being $50 now. Some of these games are like $600, $700, $800. I think Michigan might have been on there. I think that was made by the guy, I forget his name. He did the Deadly Premonition games. And D4, whatever, Dark Dreams, Deadly Dreams, Don't Die, or some shit. There's a lot of, and some games come out now, like a Recore and like Kena or Kena, whatever it's called, that have the vibe and the feel of that era, especially the PS2 platformers, which is kind of nice sometimes to get. There's some Transformers. There was a cool Transformers game. I think it was based on Armada. That was on the PS2. That was an exclusive. It was a great era of gaming. It really was one of the best. It might be my second favorite behind the Genesis TurboGrafx 16 Super Nintendo. If you want to see me talk about that era, I'll really get excited. There was a ton. Like I said, I'm forgetting a ton. Let me try to think of some more exclusives real quick before I end this. What do we got? I could, you know what? I could look it up too. I probably should. Because I'm like, yeah, I remember this, I remember that, I remember this, I remember that. Sorry, I'm going like into soft spoken here briefly as well. I named a lot of the Cube ones. All we have to do is think of their franchise. Like, oh yes, of course. They did get Crystal Chronicles, Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. There's no Final Fantasy stuff on the Xbox. And the PS2 got 10, 10-2. I love 10-2. It's one of my favorites on the console. I have such a soft spot for 10-2. I still have my pre-order poster, which I've showed many times on this channel. And they got 10, 10-2, 12, and the 11. The online one. PS2 exclusives. They have their hard drive and modem type thing. Xbox had it built in, I think. Oh, I forgot about Ico. Shadow of the Colossus was an awesome one. I never played Ico. They had a couple of Twisted Metals. Ace Combat games were their exclusive for the PS2 back then. I'm gonna say some because there's a ton. Ape Escape, Ark the Lad, which is another strategy RPG, I believe. The Bouncer, which was made by Square. They were still Square at that point. They did not merge. Enix did not merge with them yet. City Crisis. Oh, the Dark Cloud games were exclusive to the PS2. Oh, there was also Shadow Hearts and Shadow Hearts Covenant, and I think there was a third one, Brave World or something. And there was a game that was a cool game on there. I think it was also on the PC called Shadow of Destiny, which is kind of a point-and-click type game where there's so many different endings, I believe, based on what you were doing in a certain amount of time. I think your character gets killed and you have to try to go back and fix it. I think that was Konami, actually. And then you have the horse racing games and stuff like that. Gran Turismo 3 and 4. Wow, this is just... You have to go to the next page because there's so fucking many on Wikipedia. Like I said, I'm not saying all these. They had a Full Metal Alchemist game. They might have had two, actually. No, they had a bunch of NCAA games that were exclusive. The Onimusha games were exclusive. I played Demon Siege. That one had Gene Reno's likeness in it. One of them came out on the Xbox, actually, as well. It might have been the second one. I don't know. Primal. That was an exclusive that I played that I liked. That starred Hudson Like from Xena. She played Callisto in Xena. was the voice of the main character in that. I forgot about that game. Oh, they also got Resident Evil Dead Aim. Rogue Galaxy was another one that I played some of. That was an RPG. Shadow Hearts from the New World, Covenant, and the first one. Shining Tears. The Sly Coopers. I'm going to stop there. There's more. I feel like I said enough Cube ones. I'm sure I missed a bunch too, but let's go to the original Xbox real quick and then I will end it. I always have to put original Xbox, because if you just put Xbox, because Xbox didn't know how to properly name their systems. I forgot about Blinks the Time Sweeper, and there was a second one. I don't know if the second one did. The first one actually used the hard drive to like manipulate the time in the game, where you could reverse and freeze and shit. Interesting concept. Project Gotham Racing were exclusive games, and Forza games originated there as well. There's Buffy. I forgot about Conquer Live and Reloaded, which is a remake of Conquer on the N64. And I forgot about Grabbed by the Ghoulies, which is an underrated, rare game. Cool fucking game. Play that. It's cheap. Grabbed by the Ghoulies. The first Splinter Cell was exclusive. I don't know if all of them were, though. And there's Brute Force. And obviously Halo 2, I forgot about. Fusion Frenzy. Oh, Chronicles of Riddick Escape from Butcher Bay was an Xbox exclusive. That's another sick game. Dark Athena was good, too, which came out on the 360 and PS3. But that was a cool one. Really cool game. Escape from Butcher Bay. I forgot about that game. That was a good one. There's a lot of good. Like I said, that generation, I'm missing a ton. Let me look at some GameCubes to end it, actually. I don't know enough about the Dreamcast. But they obviously had a bunch of exclusive stuff, too. I'm trying to think of some other ones I'd forgotten. And you had all types of sports games, like I said. Oh, I forgot about 1080 Avalanche and Battalion Wars. And Bat and Katos, which is like a card battle game. They had a bunch of random Bloody Roar Primal Fury, which I actually had. That was Chibi Robo. I'm not saying all these. Donkey Kong's Jungle Beat and Donkey Konga. There's Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. There's Geist. Kirby Air Ride. Home Run King. It's a baseball game. I think that was an arcade. I forgot about Lost Kingdoms. And you had Mario Golf, Mario Tennis, baseball. Oh, I forgot about Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes, which is a remake of the first one. That was exclusive as well. There's Odama. There's a Pokemon Coliseum, Gale of Darkness, Pokemon Channel. Yeah, there's both Skies of Arcadia Legends. Super Mario Strikers was Super Monkey Ball 2. Oh, I forgot about Super Smash Brothers as well, Wario World. Okay, so they got Day of Reckoning 2, WrestleMania X8, and WrestleMania, is that 21? Great era for gaming. Like I said, I forgot games. That was going to happen. I talked about some of my favorites on each console. I didn't go super into that, but I kind of want to just talk about everything. But yeah, thanks for checking this out.